The yellow lightsabers in Star Wars canon as well as in Legends are beautiful and rare, and equally as mysterious as they are stunning, as even to date we still do not know the true origins of a yellow lightsaber color in Star Wars canon. So today we will attempt to answer that question, and what we know about the yellow lightsabers, everything that is, and attempt to answer the question what the yellow lightsabers may actually mean for canon, as well as outright explain fully what they mean in Legends continuity of the Star Wars universe. Before we discuss the origins of the yellow lightsaber itself, we first need to look at the individuals that wielded the lightsabers. In canon, the most famous people that wielded yellow lightsabers were the Jedi Temple Guards, or Jedi Temple Sentinels, who wielded double-bladed lightsaber pikes. What is unique about the Jedi Temple Guards is that this is a role within the Jedi Order that is rotated, and the Jedi Temple Guards' yellow lightsabers are not lightsabers that they constructed themselves, but were weapons that they were given when they assumed the role of a Temple Guard. A Temple Guard is meant to emit a true Jedi, and to be an extension of the Jedi Temple itself, to blend into the walls and represent the purity that the Jedi Order strives to. In a sense, a Jedi Temple Guard is the Order. They are faceless, and therefore they do not represent an individual, but the Jedi as a whole. This will be very important for later in the video. As I mentioned, the lightsabers wielded by the Jedi Temple Guards were not constructed by these guards, and were likely not constructed by the Jedi Order either, but were passed down from generations. You can even witness the craftsmanship on the pikes, as they appear to be far more archaic than other lightsabers that we see more modern Jedi wield. They have hints of gold and white, being reminiscent of the Old Republic era of Star Wars, as so is reminiscent of the Jedi Temple Guards' gowns themselves, as we learned through Star Wars canon that a Jedi of the Old Republic wielded more gold lightsabers and more finely tuned lightsabers than the more modern Jedi of the Clone Wars and onward, giving me indication that not only are these lightsabers likely ancient, but so be the color yellow. The Jedi Temple Guard was an ancient, honored heritage within the hallowed walls of the Jedi Temple that reported to the head of security Sin Dralig during the Clone War. The Temple Guards were anonymous Jedi Knights who committed themselves to the larger order. The guards would disappear inside the robes and identity-concealing masks, which was the ultimate expression of emotional detachment which was required to be a Temple Guard. These armored masks concealed a comlink and an in-helmet scanner. The Jedi Temple Guards' robes incorporated layers of armor weave to provide them with an effective defense against blaster bolts and other lightsabers if necessary. Temple Guards carried lightsaber pikes, thick double-bladed lightsabers that produced a rare and distinctive yellow blade. Each lightsaber was specifically assigned to the guards in order to help maintain the anonymity of their ranks. In the Star Wars canon novel Dark Disciple, there is also another appearance of a yellow lightsaber, as the Dark Jedi Asajj Ventress, who is now aligned more as a gray Jedi, actually purchases a yellow lightsaber found on the black market. It should be noted that this yellow lightsaber is not a lightsaber pike, and is more reminiscent of a standard lightsaber, having only a single blade, but this is still very important for canon, and tells us that yellow lightsabers do also come constructed in standard lightsaber form. To understand the meaning of a yellow lightsaber, we have to explore how lightsaber colors actually are imbued within a crystal. All kyber crystals originally start out clear in coloration, and it is only after a force wielder imprints upon it that it adopts a color. We recently learned in Star Wars that they can also adopt rare colors such as purple through this process, and of course the more common colors of blue and green, but this is not the only way a lightsaber can achieve a certain color. If a Sith Lord makes a lightsaber crystal bleed, it can turn red. If that crystal is then healed, it will turn white in coloration, and it is impossible for a yellow lightsaber crystal to be synthetic, as Galen Erso only barely discovered that as of the events of Rogue One, decades or potentially even centuries before the introduction of a first yellow lightsaber to canon. This leads me directly into my theory for where I believe yellow lightsabers stem from in the canon Star Wars universe. It is my personal belief that yellow lightsabers stem from a more ancient version of the Jedi Order, and that these crystals were imbued upon by some of the greatest members of this Old Republic era. And because the philosophy of the Jedi was likely far different than current time, it changed its coloration. The yellow lightsabers wielded by the Jedi Temple Guards are holdovers from this greater era of Jedi, perhaps the greatest era of Jedi, which could be the reason why the Jedi Temple Guards wield them, as they represent this ideal version of the Jedi Order, and how the Jedi of old operated. This also goes along with this theory that more modern Jedi cannot create yellow lightsabers. In fact, in Star Wars The Clone Wars, it was Dave Filoni's initial plan to give Ahsoka a second lightsaber lightsaber that was yellow in coloration. However, the creator of Star Wars, George Lucas, specifically told Dave Filoni that no Jedi of this time period could wield a yellow lightsaber, and by wield I mean essentially create. Although he would not elaborate on this, it is likely that this is a weapon stemming from the Jedi of old with a different philosophy, a different take on the Order, or the Force if you will. In Legends though, we do actually have a clear explanation of what a yellow lightsaber means. In Legends, the yellow lightsabers were wielded by the Jedi Sentinels. To make things very simple, a Jedi was essentially broken into 3 different classes: a Guardian, a Sentinel, or a Consular. The Guardians, like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, were the protectors of the Jedi Order. The Consulars like Yoda or Kit Fisto pondered on the ways of the Force. And the Sentinels were the mysterious Jedi that ventured into the galaxy in order to protect it firsthand, the rarest of the 3 groups, and it were these Jedi Sentinels that wielded yellow blades. While Sentinels had considerable combat skills and had somewhat extensive knowledge of the Force, Sentinels blended both schools of teaching and amplified them with a series of non-Force sensitive skills, such as in the fields of security, computers, stealth techniques, demolitions, repairs, or even medicine. These skills tended to take the forefront in the middle road approach to problems. While a Guardian might bash down a locked door and a Consular might simply knock, a Sentinel would instead use equipment available and use their ingenuity to pick the lock. While the role of the Sentinels within the Jedi Order had remained largely consistent throughout its history, the branch of study was first documented by the Sentinel Jedi recruiter Morant Chigali. This is the philosophy of a Jedi Sentinel. While studying all of the traditional techniques and abilities that made the Jedi who they were, the Sentinels of the Order found their isolation in the Jedi Temple to be a hindrance if they were expected to be able to work with the civilians of the galaxy. While adherence to the Force and all that it could do, Sentinels were not blinded by faith and realized that the mystical energy field did have its limitations. Typically opting for missions requiring them to stay in a single place for long periods of time, the Sentinels would take on assignments not suited for other Jedi branches. The rarely lit lightsabers of the Sentinels usually produced a yellow blade. Few in numbers, Sentinels had no superior titles such as Sage or Warrior Masters of the other 2 branches. Instead, they focused on the variety of techniques needed to be successful as a Sentinel. Known for practicing more specialized Force techniques, a form of Force immunity was favored amongst these in this class. Crossing Force-based training with increased mental conditioning, this ability allowed them to better withstand outside mental influences, including Force-based attacks. The most notable Jedi Sentinel in Star Wars Legends was Bastila Shan. Jedi Sentinels remained prominent even up until the era of the Clone Wars though, and though many of the other Jedi classes were hunted to total extinction during the Great Jedi Purge, Darth Sidious personally suspected that many of the survivors were Sentinels due to their tendency to serve on distant worlds, their ability to integrate more easily into society, and their secretive nature. Their teachings and ideals of this branch lived on in the recovered version of the Jedi path. The new Jedi Order under Luke Skywalker did not initially reinstate the title of Sentinel though. The most powerful version of a Jedi Sentinel was known as a Jedi Shadow, a highly respected and secretive group of Jedi. The Shadows went farther than the investigators in their hunt for the truth. Working closely with the Council of First Knowledge, the Shadows sought and destroyed all traces of the dark side of the Force and many of its adepts. While not always present at the temple, the Shadows were based in the temple precinct and reported back as frequently as their missions allowed them to. Also in Star Wars Legends, the same process of purifying a lightsaber crystal of the dark side of the Force once turned a lightsaber color yellow, which is important to point out. So just to briefly summarize the video, I believe in Star Wars canon that a yellow lightsaber represents the purest form of a Jedi that served more prominently during the age of the Old Republic, when the philosophy of the Jedi was different. And in Star Wars Legends, it represents the Jedi Sentinels, those individuals that directly serve the galaxy, and the more mysterious and rare Jedi, just as the color yellow reflected their own nature. But what are your thoughts on everything that we know about the yellow lightsaber color in both Star Wars canon as well as in Star Wars Legends? And did you find these answers satisfying? As always, my friends, I appreciate the continued support on the channel. If you enjoyed these longer form videos, it would also help me out a great deal if you could leave a like. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.